They thought I'd vanish quietly, like a shadow erased under flickering office lights. They didn't even say goodbye. No meeting. No warning. Just silence. They called it a restructure. I called it betrayal. It was the way my access vanished overnight. The way no one looked me in the eye that last week. Like I'd already disappeared before they made it official. They fired me quietly. But I didn't break. I didn't scream. I didn't post about it. I just disappeared. Until the day I didn't. My name is Elena Hart, I'm 32, and I live in Seattle. They rewrote my ending. But they forgot. I was the author all along. I was always the safe bet. The overachiever. The one who played by the rules and colored inside the lines. I went to a top university. Graduated early. Got hired right out of school. While others explored or traveled or messed up, I worked. Endless late nights. Back-to-back presentations. Saturdays blurred into Mondays. Everyone said I was on the fast track. Senior strategy analyst at 28. By 30, they said I'd be VP. And I believed them. In my family, success wasn't celebrated. It was expected. No one asked if I was happy. Only, how's work? And even when I smiled through the exhaustion, it was never enough. The burnout came in waves. Quiet, suffocating. I stopped sleeping. Stopped eating properly. Started waking up with a weight in my chest. Still, I kept going. Because stopping felt like failure. Then one Tuesday, my calendar just cleared. Meetings gone. Slack access revoked. A message from HR. We appreciate your contributions. Effective immediately. No warning. No dignity. Just deletion. When I told my mom, she paused and said, "She's just taking a break." My sister avoided the topic completely. "We don't talk about that anymore," I overheard at dinner. I had been erased. And so I started over. Quietly. So quietly, no one even noticed. The first few weeks felt like free fall. No meetings. No alarms. No inbox. Just there. Empty space where identity used to live. I spent mornings staring out the window. Afternoons walking without direction. And nights asking myself, what do I even know how to do? That's when I started helping a neighbor, Ruth. An 84-year-old woman who couldn't figure out how to use Zoom. Her son lived in Toronto, and they hadn't seen each other in months. "It's hopeless," she muttered, slapping her laptop like it was to blame. "This machine hates me." I sat with her, taught her, slowly, how to click, swipe, mute, unmute. It was just 1 hour. But when the screen lit up and her son's face appeared, her hand flew to her mouth. Her voice cracked. "You brought my baby into my living room." She hugged me when I left. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. There were so many people like Ruth. Alone. Isolated. Cut off not by distance, but by tech they couldn't navigate. So, I made a flyer. Digital help for seniors. Friendly. Patient. Free first session. I dropped 10 copies at the local cafe. By the end of the week, I had 4 calls. 2 weeks later, 12. It wasn't flashy. I wasn't changing the world. But every time a screen lit up, every time someone reconnected with a loved one, it didn't make headlines. But it mattered. What began as a side project quietly grew into something real. I named it Silverlink. Simple. Soft. Human. At first, it was just me. Then, a friend from my old job offered to build me a basic website. We added a scheduling tool, a donation button. Nothing fancy, but functional. Within 3 months, I had 60 recurring clients. Seniors from all over the city. Then came a community center partnership. Then a retirement home pilot. By the end of year 1, we were onboarding 1,200 seniors per month. We taught them how to email their grandkids, attend virtual church, manage online prescriptions. One woman cried when she paid her bills online for the first time. "Didn't think I had it in me," she said, laughing through tears. I hired part-time coaches. Train them not just in tech, but in patience, kindness, presence. We hit a 78% email open rate, higher than some Fortune 500 companies. A university reached out for research collaboration. A podcast invited me to speak. But when I told my family, my brother raised an eyebrow. Teaching old folks to click buttons? Real noble work. My cousin laughed. She's always been the free spirit. At Thanksgiving, someone asked, "So, are you working again yet?" It stung. More than I wanted to admit. They saw it as a cute little detour. A hobby. A phase I'd grow out of. No one came to the small event where I received a community leadership award. No one mentioned the newspaper article clipped to the fridge, except me. And I put it there. At night, I'd stare at my growing database of happy clients. Emails filled with gratitude. Photos of seniors holding iPads like treasures. And yet, in my family's eyes, I was still the girl who got fired. It was strange how I could feel so full and yet still invisible. But I didn't quit.
Not this time. It was a Tuesday.
I was invited to a networking brunch by one of our new funders. It was supposed to be casual, just local nonprofits, tech startups, a few angel investors. Name tags.
Coffee.
Polite smiles. I wore a navy blazer I hadn't touched in years. The kind that still smelled like ambition and heartbreak. I moved from group to group. Small talk. Handshakes. Until I ended up next to a woman holding a glass of orange juice and laughing softly to herself. We introduced ourselves. Her name was Maya Blake. She ran a foundation that supported elder wellness and social connection. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "We recently got my father a digital coach," she smiled. "He's 82. We thought it would be a disaster." I stayed still. But this woman, her name was Lena or Lena, something like that, she was amazing. I smiled gently. "Elena, maybe?" I offered. She nodded. "He sent me a selfie last week," she laughed. The man couldn't figure out how to press send on a message for 5 years. Now he's using emojis. Her voice softened. It made me cry, honestly. I know it sounds small, but I hadn't heard my dad sound that alive in years.
She paused.
Looked at me more closely. "Wait. Are you connected to Silverlink?" I met her eyes. "I founded it," I said quietly. Her face changed, slowly, like her brain was catching up to her heart. You're Elena Hart?" I nodded. She stepped back a little, then forward, then held out both hands. "Oh my God. You're the reason my dad calls me every Sunday now." Other people around us started paying attention. Someone from her table leaned over and said, "Silverlink? Wait, I know that name too. My uncle uses it." The conversation swelled around me. Suddenly, I was not just a quiet guest in a navy blazer. I was the woman behind something real. Something that had touched lives. Maya looked at me again, this time with tears glistening. "You changed my family," she whispered, "without even knowing us." I didn't know what to say. So I just said the truth. I never did it to be seen. But the work, it refuses to stay quiet. That moment, that room, that look in her eyes, it was louder than any promotion, more powerful than any job title, because it wasn't about climbing anymore. It was about rising. It didn't happen overnight. There was no parade, no confetti, just little things. A text from my mom a few weeks later. "Saw a segment on Silverlink on the news. You looked so confident. I'm proud of you." I didn't reply right away. I just read it twice. Then again. My brother sent me a photo of our grandfather holding a tablet. No caption. But I knew. During a family dinner, someone finally asked, "So, what's next for Silverlink?" Not if, but what's next. It wasn't fanfare. But it was acknowledgement. And somewhere inside me, the tightness I'd carried for years loosened. I no longer needed them to clap. I just needed to know I hadn't lost myself in the silence. I still keep that first flyer. The one I made at my kitchen table with too many fonts and too much hope. Sometimes I take it out, not to remember the fall, but to honor the quiet rising. It wasn't pride. It was peace. The kind you earn, not because others validate you, but because you survived long enough to recognize your own worth again. I didn't print the text for my mom. I just kept it in a folder, titled simply, Proof. If you've ever felt unseen, this story was for you. If you've ever been erased quietly, doubted silently, or made to feel small by people who never bothered to understand you, you're not alone. Sometimes the most powerful comeback doesn't make noise. It just works.
Grows. Heals.
Shines quietly but undeniably. Where are you watching from? Tell me your story. Someone out there needs to hear it. Someone who thinks it's too late, too small, too broken. Let this be proof. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to rebuild in the dark. And one day, without even trying, your truth will walk into the room and speak for itself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. More real stories are coming. And if you're still in the silence, just wait. Your sound is on its way.